Hello and welcome to the Barbara Young channel. Now, I've decided to make a bag. Well, actually, it's quite a long running project of mine. I've been making a bag, or trying to make a bag, for quite some time, and I've started out probably more than a year ago, a couple of years ago probably, where I had this old bag and it was getting a bit worn out and it was a bit like a messenger bag type thing, and I decided I needed to change it and I wanted a new one. Couldn't find anything that resembled what I wanted, so I thought, well, why not make my own? Why not have a go at making a bag and seeing how it comes out? So what I did is I used the original bag, which unfortunately I don't have anymore because I've thrown that because it was fairly well worn out, and used that as a template, as a starting point to begin to develop my bag. Now, I say it was a long running saga, this one. Yeah, saga really, rather than just a project, because I have been doing it for quite some time. So I started off by making basically a sort of largest mock-up of the original bag. Now, there's an inner piece like for creating some pockets inside, with a fold over flap part and two sections on the inside. You know, and this is just some weird material. I think this is like, you know, blackout curtain lining material, but it got me the initial sort of pattern that I wanted to use. Now, from this, there is another mock-up somewhere. I'm not sure where that went. That was a bit more developed, that had zips with it, and in the end what I ended up with is this green bag, which is a green bag that I use every day really. It's got a false front just to make it look nicer, so that's got that messenger bag look to it. Then on the other side we've got the magnetic fasteners, open-ended zip, chunky open-ended zip. Not very keen on bags where you can't open the zip all the way and open the bag up so you can get it properly opened up. Now this one has got me stuff in there, so I won't dive into it too much. But then you've got two sections, one here and then this one that does have an inner zip, which I really liked. But when I made this one, again, get and undo this zip, it's a open-ended zip with like little pockets as well in this, but when I made this one I made it like as a one-off, so I didn't think about the construction method, so that was not really repeatable without spending a lot of time making a bag. So I decided to try and develop that bag and make another one. So I made this green one, which is a little bit different, a little bit smaller, but very similar size. I'm using this to store materials now. I've got zips galore. It's almost like it's my zip bag. Zip and goodness me, look at the size of that, elastic in there. So I'm using it. So it's very much a similar sort of thing. Two compartments. Constructed it a little differently, but still wasn't totally happy with this, with the construction method. Again, false front, make it look like a messenger bag. So that was that one. And then I moved on from that. I thought I'll make him a bit smaller, see if I can make it smaller. Again, another one out of this weird material. So this one's a little bit smaller, just a single pocket. Again, two sections. Again, this has got things in it for sewing, that I'm just using it as a storage bag now. So it's a bit smaller, and I managed to make it a bit easier, so there's a bit more development in the way that it's constructed to try and make it easier to construct. And then I actually made these two bags, which I've got slightly varying different construction methods, but very, very similar construction methods. Again, they have, get the strap sorted, they have a false front just so you know it looks nicer when you got it over your shoulder. Magnetic popper, open chunky zip, 2 compartments. But again, the way I made this wasn't particularly the easiest way, so I changed that and made this one again basically the same sort of thing. Chunky open-ended zip, but the method of construction, especially the inner side, the lining, was very different, which made it much quicker to make, so that it's much easier to put together. And I suppose as I've got further on with it, I've got better at putting these together, which means you get quicker anyway. And the materials that I'm using are basically recycled, as it were. I've gone to, you know, throughout thrifting and gone to charity shops and stuff like that to find materials that I especially can make for the material. Of course, the hardware, generally, you know, these D-rings and that, I've tended to have to buy new. So that's that one, and then I wanted to make a slightly smaller one, so I've even made it even smaller than that. So now I've got this blue one, which needs a strap on it. It's not quite finished, but this one has not got an open-ended zip. This is the closed-end zip. Same construction method as the larger one though for the inside, which meant it was quicker to make. Nice blue one, and then this one. Again, I fully finished this one off with a zip that I've sewed in, and you know, 2 sections on the inside. So that's where I am with it. So my idea now is, now I've gone through all that process of developing and testing and working out how it's all going to come together, I finally ended up, get rid of that, oops, dropping it all over the floor. I finally ended up with effectively my pattern that is now fully developed, at least for the small size bag, and now that I've developed that, I can upscale it to the larger sizes that I want to also make. So I suppose the next thing will be to actually mark this out on good material, and start cutting it out and putting it together so I can properly make a fully fledged, fully usable finished bag. So I've managed to cut out the pattern now, and I've gone for 2 different materials. This lighter blue is going to be the inside section, which is a cotton material, and the outside is this darker blue, which is like a sort of light medium weight waterproof material. Now, I have used this type of material before, and I found that it is a bit tricky to work with. What you have is, when you've got a wrong side and right side together, there's a certain amount of grip between them so they don't move, and even when you've got the 2 wrong sides together, they still have a certain amount of, as it were, grip. But when you have the 2 right sides together, these move about very easily, so there's a lot of slip in there, which means that sewing this is really difficult. So effectively what I have to do is, when I'm sewing this, I have to baste everything first to try and prevent this from when I'm stitching it. Otherwise you get that creep where it'll creep off and one end will be out of place from the other, but as you're sewing it, you know, because it just, the way that it is, because it just has that movement on it, almost like a sheer fabric that's going to move a lot when you're sewing it. So it makes it a bit difficult to work with. So a lot more work involved in having to baste it to put it together, but it's all cut out and it's ready to start sewing. So that's the lining done, or the inner bag, as it were, you could call it. There's 2 sections, you can see that. So there's a, you know, 2 compartments in there, as it were. There's a reason why this section, this bit doesn't come all the way to the top. Partly because it can be a bit fiddly if you've got 2 very deep sections to get into, I found. So, but it is a dividing partition, so it divides it up. But that is the inside, and that's going to drop into the, well, be stitched into the outer bag, as it were. So there is a lining, rather than some bags that don't have any linings at all, but this does, and that's it constructed. Marvellous. So I did film a bit of footage of the construction. Didn't realise the camera battery had gone flat, so I haven't got any footage of that, sorry. So just the end result of that. So now I've got my inner bag lining and my zip, of which is light colour on one side because it's the inside, and that is going to be seen on the outside. Now this is a open-ended zip. I prefer this zip because it's just easy to work with, and when you open up a bag there's nothing worse than trying to get past the zip that doesn't open at the ends, whereas like this you can open the bag up fully and actually get into the bag and find what you want on the inside. So that's got, just put that back together. Now I do it like this because this gets stitched in as when I put this part into the outer section. So I've got this bit already. The only problem with doing it this way is you've got to make sure you get everything lined up so that this side, as you can see, I've managed to get it nice and even on both sides, but it's taken a bit of practice and working out to be able to do that, so that every time I do it I get it right every time, because there's nothing worse than this being trying to zip it up and it'll be skew whiff and you know nothing lines up. So but yeah, so there we go, zip done. So I think what's next is the little flap. There's a little flap on the outside which is this, that's going to have one of those magnetic clips, so I'm going to have to do the magnetic clip bit first. Now the way I do that is I actually do a couple of little buttonholes for where the prongs come through. I haven't got one, I don't know what I've done with it. Put it down somewhere, I can't find it now. But it's got two like little prongs that go through that you bend over that hold it in position. But I always buttonhole and create a little buttonhole for those slits. Just makes it so much more stronger. There's less chance of it tearing when you actually start to try and use it. And then I'm going to use some of this stuff, which is like a really heavy duty interfacing that I've taken out of the top section of a curtain. You know, the curtains you get with the big hoop holes for the rod ones. If you take them apart, usually inside there at the top where the holes are, they've got this really stiff interfacing which you can also cut into little squares and use as backing on the inside, which really helps stiffen it up and make it nice and secure. Slowly coming along, bag, inner lining, zip, all done, and now the little flap that'll be on the bag with the little magnetic snap piece. Yeah, the other bit will be attached to the actual bag, outer bag. So that's that bit done. So just to get the main body of the bag put together, and then I'll be able to put it all together, the whole lot. So on with the main body. I've now got all the parts of my bag ready. I've got the outer, which is this part, ready to go. The inner to go into that lining. I've got the this is the flap. It's got the button on. It'll go on the front of here, like with this a bit, onto there, on the front of the bag, attached to the top. This is like a lining piece for that top. Go in there, and the zip, of course. So really, all I've got to do now is put it all together and end up hopefully with a finished bag. Well, it won't be quite finished because I've still got the strap and that to sort out, but the main bag will be constructed. So still quite a bit of work, so better get a move on with it. Well, the bag's come together quite well. It's all sort of constructed together. It's nearly done. Just got to put a strap on there, which is actually a lot more difficult than it appears from when I've done my mock-ups and my testers. It can actually be quite a pain to do, but it's, as you can see, it's quite sort of sloppy, I suppose. It is, after all, a material bag. It's not got a hard shell. It's not like a hard leather bag that you might get. It's got a lot of structure to it. This is intentional for it to not be over structured. The magnetic clasp, as it were, what they call them, you know, that's on there and easily opens. We've got the zip, which is a open-ended zip, so you can actually open it up and properly get into the bag. You know, I mean, if you can't find something, it's much easier to do this than it is trying to fiddle about with a zip that's half closed still. So you know what I mean. Finding stuff in bottoms and bags. And this one, actually, the way I've done it is this lining is not actually fixed in, so you could actually, if you need to give it a clean, pull this lining out and then just push it back in and give it a bit of a clean and find stuff as well, I suppose, you know, if something's deep down in the bottom of there. Not that it's a deep bag, you know, even though I am looking to make a bigger bag. Actually, I'll just get it. I've already started on a larger version. As you can see, this is a much bigger bag than this one, so a larger version means it's just got a bigger inside section. It'll have more structure to it because it's just larger, so it has a bit more structure, but again, it's still this sort of soft material bag because where possible I intend to try and use recycled materials and reused materials from like other projects and I've got left over, and that way it helps keep the cost down and makes this nice sort of material cloth bag that could be quite as a general use bag, you know, it's sort of used for quite a lot of things. I say this one just now needs the strap putting on it, which is the next task, which will probably take me just as long as putting the bag together, because straps are always actually a pain in the backside to do. So on we go. So that's the bag finished, all done with. Got the strap on. Didn't go too badly after all. It's quite a nice little bag actually, quite versatile I reckon, or I certainly hope it will be, with a strap that can be worn quite short over the shoulder, on the shoulder, or lengthen it to be over the shoulder and across the body, which makes it very useful. With the open-ended zip, it means I can get quite a bit in it, such as a mobile phone, hairbrush, hair accessories, a tie, a waist tie, spare tights and deodorant spray, whatever else I need to try and fit in there. Quite a nice little bag, get plenty in it really for the size, so yeah, quite like that. So yes, quite an enjoyable project. Like I said before, I'm going to scale this up and make it a bigger bag, and that'll be more useful, but look more like a messenger bag than the bigger version, so I'll be able to get more stuff in it, which is just brilliant. Well, thanks for joining me on my video. I look forward to joining you on my next video. Bye.